Hey guys, it's Ashley and welcome to a brand new video. It's actually been a minute since I've actually filmed a video. The last one you guys saw would have been like 6 days ago that I posted, but that was actually recorded probably a few days before that. And the reason for that is we just were unexpectedly sick this last week and weekend, or I shouldn't say this last week, but like late last week into the weekend. And my daughter came home early yesterday sick. She's home again today because I didn't want to send her back in case she still is sick. But I just felt like filming. And in today's video, I actually want to address a question that was asked by a subscriber. So it's been a minute. But yeah, I wanted to address this question from a subscriber. And they asked, how do you deal with jealousy on a low income? I thought this was a really good question, and I think it's probably something a lot of people deal with. So I'm going to answer it the best I can, but I do want to foreshadow this by saying I might just have a different personality than you. I obviously have different experiences and we're different people. So at the end of the day, this may be helpful and it may not, and I may not be the best person to answer this question, but I'll certainly try. So the one thing I want to say, this is what I want to start by saying. I've never been an overly jealous person. And I don't mean that in a prideful way. I have so many things that I struggle with. For me, I've always struggled more with personal insecurity, but it's never gotten to a point where I would necessarily feel jealous of other people. For me personally, my insecurity, I feel like is very rooted within myself. And I do want to say this. I think I'm so sorry. There's like snow falling from the trees. But anyways, for myself, I am typically a very introspective person. And I really think this could potentially be a reason why I've not personally struggled with jealousy too much. And if I have struggled with jealousy, I feel like it's more in a light way where it's like, oh, that person, their hair looks so pretty. I would love to get my hair done eventually. Maybe it's something I'll do in the future. But it's not something that typically eats away at me. It's just not something that I struggle with in general. So living on a low income does not necessarily make me jealous of other people or covet their possessions. There are obviously things I would love in this life. Like I would love someday to be able to buy a bigger house and have a nicer house in general. I would love it to drive a different car. The car I drive is not my own at all. Obviously, I literally just drive my husband's car. So yeah, I would love to have a car. I'd love to like drive a Toyota, like Toyota Sienna or something. But when I have like desires, I don't really like get jealous because other people have those things and I don't. And I do think this is very personal. So when I'm saying this, like, for anyone listening, I am not saying that this is wrong if you struggle with this, because we all have different struggles. For me, when I was very young, I was a very insecure person and very, very hard on myself. But again, it always remained as just an inward battle, and it was never something that led me to be envious of other people. And again, this is nothing highly of myself. It's just, we all have different personalities, like honestly. So that's really all I can say in terms of that. But I do want to say I've been on the receiving end of jealousy, and it's not fun to be on the receiving end of. It can feel, and I know a lot of people, they are very insecure about being jealous. So it's probably not something that a lot of people would outrightly say, but the times that it's happened to me, it has made me feel honestly really bad. But all that aside, I just want to say, I think the most important thing we can do is become introspective, and instead of focusing on other people and what they have. And you know what? A lot of times too, sometimes people are not jealous necessarily of possessions. I know when we think of jealousy, we might think of that. But I do think like jealousy, I also see it in the form of being jealous of people's personalities, their achievements, their success, their looks, their husbands, their kids and how their kids behave, their, life circumstances, like all of that kind of thing. And I think at the end of the day, the root is the same. It's something that is within ourselves, and we need to heal those broken parts of ourselves and find ways to become more introspective rather than focusing on what everybody else has. I think we have to take that inwardly. And even if you're struggling just in terms of like possessions and feeling like you wish you had what so-and-so has, I would just say take the focus off of material items and instead focus on yourself as a person and just growing in yourself as a person. So I think this helps because if you're focused on things like goals, bettering yourself, growing as a friend, growing as a person in general, I think we are less likely to be focusing on material items because we're going to be self-reflecting on the things we can actually control. And of course, we can control as well, like our income situation to an extent. Sometimes we can't. Like in my case, I've said, I'm very limited in my employment options, but I can still focus on the 10% of that, which I can control, which is saving money and earning money in the ways I can, which I've said before. And so I definitely can focus on those things. But at the end of the day, our jealousy really has nothing to do with living on a low income, because even if you had a nicer house, a nicer car, nicer clothing, nicer possessions, more money in your bank, you would still struggle because this is not an issue of materialistic possession. It is an issue in our hearts. And so that is what I want to say today. Focus on the matter of the heart and focus on what you can control today. What I would suggest is practice gratitude right now. This is a simple thing you can start today. Practice gratitude and, maybe look into some Bible verses that can encourage you, or even just positive affirmations that can build you up as a person. Because I think jealousy and insecurity, they all come from this place of, I think, not being confident within ourselves and not being happy and content within ourselves. And I say this with all the love in the world because, like I said, I feel like for me, my struggle's always been insecurity, which at times is not better than jealousy. Insecurity has its own baggage that it brings to the table. It can equally cause disruptions in friendships and relationships, and in general, how we relate to other people. And so I think insecurity is really just another side of jealousy, but just maybe a different direction. But yeah, at the end of the day, all of these things are inward heart issues, and they really have nothing to do with how much money is in our bank account. And so that's all I want to say. I think that is the best thing we can do going forward, is focus on what you can control and reflect on what you bring to the table. What you bring to the table has very little to do with the money in your bank. And if your possessions are what you feel like your worth is grounded in, that's just wrong altogether, because our worth just and our character go way beyond anything that we owned. Owning things does not make us better as people. It does not contribute to healthier relationships. It does not cause us to be more considerate of others. Like it really, at the end of the day, our possessions are just that. They're just possessions. They're just things we own. And money, all the money in the world is not enough to take away jealousy out of our hearts. The Bible actually does have a lot to say about jealousy. And if I can find a few verses, I'll leave them linked in the description. But yeah, that's what I want to say. At the end of the day, it's not about the money in the bank. It's not about the possessions. And there are so many things you can do to overcome this. I just want to say this too. It's really tempting at times when you see other people, like maybe friends who are, maybe doing better than you financially. And I'm just speaking to the financial side of things, but in general, maybe your friend's doing better in a completely different way. It could just be their success, a new job. Maybe it is something they bought, and maybe you can't afford to buy it or whatever. Try not to let these things take root in your heart and destroy potentially beautiful friendships. I just want to say I've made amazing friends throughout my life, and I have friends of all walks of life. Literally, I have friends of different religions. I have friends just of entirely different belief systems, and I have friends who make a lot of money and who own beautiful houses and beautiful cars and beautiful things, and they don't have the same struggles. But you know what? We are still rooted in so much more than money, and that's the thing. Like, our friendships should not even be based on economic status. Some amazing people I've met have a lot of money in the bank, and a lot of times it is because they worked really hard to be in that position, or their spouse worked really hard to help their family be in that position. And I think rather than covet other people, we can just use it as a motivation to do our best to make our homes beautiful within our means. And at the end of the day, just remember that who we are as people is far more important than anything financially. And a lot of times, to be honest, I love shopping. Even though I live on a low income, I love shopping. So when my friends share like new things that they've bought, I love it. Like, I actually enjoy seeing my friends succeed. A friend of mine recently, actually, she's gonna know exactly who she is. She bought a vanity, and I was so happy for her. And it's Mama Jessie J, in case you guys didn't know. But like, I was so happy for her, and I love to see my friends win and be blessed in this life, because I want everyone to succeed. And I just want everybody to do good and be happy. And at the end of the day, that's it. So that is my little chat to this. Hopefully that answered a little bit, and I really am gonna have a new homemaking video very soon, guys. I really want to, but it's just I have not been feeling the greatest, so this was the easiest video to get out today, and I really did want to answer this question. I felt like it was such a good one, and I felt like even if I couldn't necessarily relate to being jealous of like people's possessions, I still felt like, you know, I have dealt with insecurity, and what can I bring to the table here, and what can I share to be an encouragement? And I really hope the person who asked this question knows that they're probably an amazing person, and I just hope they're letting people see the real them and not allowing anything to harbor in their hearts that's causing, you know, any dysfunction in their relationships, or even just in their daily life. Like, yeah. So before I ramble on, thank you so much for asking this question, and thank you guys for tuning into today's video. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I love to talk low income and living on a low income, and I will see you guys very shortly with a new homemaking video. God bless, and I will see you in the next one.